see it.
Good morning. This is Susan Gannett and Annette Mitchell, and today we're going to just focus on basic shapes in our and taking that into the drawing. And here's Annette.
Okay.
Keep going.
To this point, we've looked for the basic shapes to outline or set up our compositions, and then we would take it to a fairly representational result afterwards and use those basic shapes to overlay our form on top of. This final week in our course, we're going to just be conscious of these underlying shapes and not take it to the same kind of conclusions we have in the past. So when we do this sort of thinking, all we're concerned about is the dynamics, the angles, the overall structure, and some people say the skeleton or the armature for the form, and then let it take us to some new results. As a result, we're probably not going to draw with like the vine charcoal on newsprint, but rather I had found a piece of white arches cover that I had put some washes on with a sponge brayer, so that this is dry, and over it now we can just respond to the underlying shapes without taking it to the same conclusion. So here on the table we have sponge brayers, and this little pan that I don't know if you can see inside of is filled with just water. So I put the sponge brayer in it, squeeze the water out so that we have a damp sponge brayer. And then I'm going to take just any container, hopefully one that's disposable, and I'm going to take some acrylic paint. But in your work, you don't have to use any particular medium. You could cut your response out of construction paper. You could actually do something in wire. You could use watercolors. You could use colored pencils for those of you who recently bought some new art supplies. There's no particular medium that you have to use. So what I've done is I rolled my brayer in some acrylic paint, and I'm going to look at this form and just respond to the main shapes that I see in this photograph that I'm looking at. And I'm not going to be too worried about is it totally accurate, and I'm just going to, as I said, respond, and you can use any medium whatsoever. So I'm going to get some more on the brayer, and just looking for the basic response to the shapes. Okay. Anyway, just I think the main thing I would say to anyone doing this sort of thing is there's no right and wrong, which I really appreciate, because then you can't go wrong. And we laugh sometimes and say you can't be put in art jail. So here I'm just, and the reason I took a prepared piece of paper is, up until now we've just been working on newsprint, and it had no background already there. But when you have something already the paper and you put it down, it kind of already involves the negative surrounding space automatically, and you don't have to worry about that at all. All right, to this point, I think I'm going to just add a little bit more and then I'll quit. But I wanted to say, I hope you would just feel free to use cut paper, draw with Elmer's glue and let it dry, etc. But basically, you're just looking for forms, and you're playing, and you have no earthly idea where it's headed. And if I've gone over time, Susan,
You're good.
just a slight bit more, and I'll quit. Perhaps I'll quit. So I just wanted them to see a little bit more of the shapes of the fingers or the hands and so forth. So you get the idea that you're developing it with just your basic underlying forms.